a 26 kilowatt hour battery, and then increasing the amount of PV here. And as we increase the PV, obviously the payback period just keeps going down because there's more PV.
Yep, more solar. That's right.
And we get our powered by renewables percentage to this point at 96. It's pretty good. And the battery utilisation of about 86%, which is kind of starting to emerge as a bit of a sweet spot in terms of the best payback.
A lot of people go, but there's no more room on my roof for solar. But if you've got a quarter-acre section and you've got a driveway and you park your car in there, why not put in a solar carport?
Yeah, for sure. Win-win.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, so starting to see some of these rules of thumb emerging, but we're still working on refining those because you chuck in different variables like when power is used, what the time of use tariff is the array facing all north or a bit of east and west, and it throws these out a little bit. So that's just an example of that, a load with more seasonal variation.
So that's a year's worth of production?
It's a year's worth of load data.
Load data.
So on the top there, it's pretty steady, but the bottom one is high summer use and high winter use. And the higher variation has less of a payback period because the battery utilisation is lower.
Right, yep.
So we've still got a bit of study to go in order to be able to be really firm with these. And so I'm doing a little bit of work with some RMIT students at the moment, and there's actually another university in Canada that's interested in looking at this too with us. So it's exciting times ahead.
Wow.
Yeah.
And where can people see the results of their research?
When it gets published.
Okay. Well, I'll link in the description as usual. Yeah. Cool.
Yeah. What we're looking at here is metadata. So, like lots of people, it's now a lot easier to get actual load consumption data.
So you're talking about the utilities meter?
Yeah, the utility meter. Being careful that you have to make sure that that's the consumption data and not just the net that's mixed in with any solar export. So here we've got the ability to visualise it in a heat map, which is just really easy then to just take a quick look at it and say, okay, yeah, this is where the peaks are happening in the evening, and you can see the variation over the year. We've got each row here as a different month of the year.
Oh, yeah. So as winter comes on, it pushes further into the evening. Mm-hmm. Yeah, probably a bit of daylight saving effect there too.
Yeah, but for this, yeah, maybe. And this particular load, it doesn't change a hell of a lot over the year. But we've got it happening in half-hour increments, so we can get a little bit more accurate with the modelling by running the calculations every half hour. And in fact, if we had this metadata running at 10 minutes, then we can do the calculations every 10 minutes as well. So you get even more accurate.
Yep.
Okay, so here we have 30 kilowatt hour a day load, 15 kilowatt hour battery, and 14 kilowatt of PV. And in December, it's running great, really maxing out there the battery state of charge for every day across there. And that annual pattern over here, what we're looking at here at the top is the top of those bars is the total consumption. So we can see a little bit of variation. But that darker colour here is how much of that consumption comes from the grid. So we can see it's just going up a little bit in June, July. We could increase that by adding more PV and more battery, but it's not worth it financially to do that, to get that last little percentage.
I guess there's also the opportunity to educate the customer about discretionary use of surplus energy. So in summer, like in January, they're going to be exporting in the afternoon. And what do you know? It's often when it's hot. What helps cool the house?
Yeah.
Run your aircon when it's sunny because you're just using up your surplus solar.
And run it during the day so that it's soaking.
Pre-cool the house even if you're not home. Yeah, if it's free energy.
This is just looking at some scenarios of the effect of the battery booster, I think. There's cheaper home batteries.
We would explain the acronyms too.
Sure, PDRS. Anyone in New South Wales will be familiar with that, but that's the Peak Demand Reduction Scheme or the New South Wales Battery Rebate. Best one is a rebate that applies to all batteries, and the best 2 is just for batteries that are connected as an additional rebate for batteries that are connected to a VPP. And we see here, like, again, I've used like retail pricing that's pretty conservative. I'm sure that there's people who are selling batteries cheaper than this, but it's just a kind of an indicative figures.
Right, so it's the mid-range numbers,
Maybe,
which is good. It could be less.
Yep. And now what we see, the interesting thing here is that down here with the battery booster, it's now more economical to go up to that 20 kilowatt hour battery. So, yeah, that's made a difference in those ratios. So now we see that the powered by renewables going up.
98%, wow. And the payback's 6 years, wow.
Yeah.
It's looking good.
It's looking good.
Yep. And you add a VPP, which, because the battery booster requires you to have VPP functionality, it's pretty easy just to switch it on.
Yep.
Yeah.
And of course, the earnings from that VPP are going to vary depending on the provider and depending on the year. It's a bit of a crystal ball, so I've just guessed at $400 a year.
Right.
Yeah. Better not show that on YouTube. Yeah.
Cool.
So that's pretty much it. I don't think we need to go into that. But actually, one more thing that I did want to touch on, though, is with backup, making sure that the inverter is going to be able to provide the energy in the event of a blackout for the load, right? So anyone used to doing off-grid sizing will know that some loads, like motors, can surge to 7 times their continuous rating. So say you have a 1 kilowatt water pump, it surge instantaneously, but when you first switch it on, so it's a direct online pump, it might go to 7 kilowatt for that just initial
Fraction of a second.
Yeah. And it's only a fraction of a second, but the inverter has to be able to provide it.
Yeah.
And a typical off-grid inverter will have this big iron core transformer. It will be very heavy, but it can do that, right? Whereas grid-connected inverters will be transformerless in order... Maybe, do you want to explain that bit of why they have to be?
Well, they're lighter and cheaper and more efficient.
Yeah, but wasn't there something about the transformer-based ones actually can't comply with AS4 777.2?
I wouldn't want to say that of all manufacturers, but it is a challenge to get the amount of phase shift from a transformer-based inverter.
Okay, right.
Yep.
Cool. So just be careful with that. So make sure that any loads that you want to put on the backup circuit, make sure you take into account the surge rating of those loads, and so especially anything with a motor. So fridges will have even though they might just be 300 watts continuous, when they surge, they'll go higher. Air cons. And
particularly your older appliances, like older fridges, that there was a change in the efficiency of fridges. They moved from reciprocating to screw compressors, and air conditioners went from just simple motor to inverter controlled, and so that made them soft start. So soft start appliances, which is like your modern ones, are much less taxing on that surge demand.
Yep. You might only have a surge of 2 or 3 times, right?
Yeah, even less. Yep.
Great. So just keep that in mind. We do have a calculator in SolarPlus where this is like your typical calculator for AS Sensides 4509, where you can factor in each load and what you want to be included in the maximum demand, whether that's the continuous demand or the surge demand.
So this gets you a very accurate picture of a customer's use with seasonal variation.
Yes.
Yeah, and probably more applicable for an off-grid design.
Yes.
Yeah. Unless you're really a thorough person doing it for on-grid, because you've got to go and find this stuff out from the customer, what their appliances are.
And that kind of comes back to what the customer's after. If their main concern is backup and they want to be sure that in the event of a big storm that certain loads are backed up, you probably do want to go to this amount of level of detail. Yeah, so that's it. Coming back to working out what the customer's needs are. Got some rules of thumb. We're refining them at the moment with some students, and comes back to giving people an informed choice.
Yeah. So since this is actually demonstrating the power of SolarPlus, I mean, who would use SolarPlus?
I guess installers and designers and salespeople who want to go the next level of getting good accuracy, building up that relationship of trust with the customer to show them that this solution is fit for their needs, that's going to show the returns based on just the equipment that's been proposed, like the new solar and the battery, not combining it with the existing solar. Yeah.
I guess it shows if you go through the trouble of doing a design and using the customer's data that you're really engaged and there's a high level of trust and confidence. I mean, the days when I used to sell solar, that's a while ago, sometimes I'd come up with a customer who'd just been given a quote and it was just like a brochure with a dollar sign written on it, and that's all they got. They got no performance estimates, no assessment of their roof, no assessment of their loads. And the response often from customers, well, you turned up, you measured stuff, I choose you.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, you've gone the extra mile. Even though it took you a little bit longer, you get the sale.
Yeah. Yeah, cool. Well, Anne, thanks very much for showing us how to choose a battery.
Yeah, no worries. It was good.
Cool. Hey.